It's the county conversation. Surrey win title number 3. Sussex gain promotion back to Division 1. And Glamorgan are the 50 over one day cup winners after winning a T20 in the rain. But first, joining myself, Cameron Ponsonby and Nick Friend, it's cricket's Pep Guardiola / Alex Ferguson hybrid. We've got Gareth Batty, the man in charge of Surrey's 3rd consecutive title. Gareth, A, thank you for joining us. B, cut back to 2022. This was your job as an interim for 1 year and 1 year only. You weren't meant to be here. 3 years later, you've won every single title campaign that you've competed in. A, easy joke. This must be a very easy job management. How are you feeling? What's it been like going through on the bounce? I also remember, I want to get this in early, being at Surrey's dinner last year where Alex Stewart went, forget living in the moment. We want to win 7 in a row. What has it been like kind of having to live up to that pressure where such success is expected?
I think first and foremost, going back to the start 22, I spoke to my family and my wife was like, nah, give it a crack for you. What are you going to lose? And my kids were like, yeah, don't worry about it, Daddy, not having a clue what it meant. Winding the clock on 3 years now, I'm not allowed in the front door because they don't know who I am, which is a bit of an issue. But no, the professional side of it, what have we gone from 14th, I think, to first 3 times on the trot. Look, it's incredibly satisfying. And I think from being a player at the club for a long time and not managing to win as much as was expected, I knew the expectation. But being able to help individuals within a wonderfully gifted group of players to achieve their own personal goals as well as a team goal. So everything starts off with a team goal. Every club sits at the start of the year saying they want to win this, this, and this. Some will want all 3, some will want 1, some will whatever. And we've been able to follow certain things through. But I think having the common goal that we want to win as a group, but then individually break it down. So it's that whole process piece. You coach some players and you teach others. And it's incredibly satisfying to see somebody improving. But I think, and I hope, if you spoke to the players, the way to keep the top 2 inches as free as possible is to feel like you're getting better. And all of a sudden, this snowball starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And at the moment, we've done some very nice things. But by goodness, we've got a heck of a lot to improve on to do 7 on the bounce by me.
So you've been kind of top throughout. And yeah, I think Surrey have been leading the pack this year. But cut to 2 weeks ago, and you had the dramatic loss in the county championship away to Somerset. You then lost to them in the semi-final as well. It almost felt like all the momentum had been sucked out of Surrey's campaign, and it was written for Somerset to then turn it around, beat Lancashire, and kind of this was going to be their moment. Can you kind of take us in the dressing room after that defeat at Taunton of how you react to that? Is it a case of keeping people calm, or is it like, guys, we need to get our stuff together right now, otherwise it's all going to be over?
You started with the football connotation at the start. Don't write anybody off. You can win a game, but you don't win the war. Look, we played probably our best game of cricket at Taunton right up until the last hour because it's foreign conditions for us. We don't play on those slow, turgid pitches. I have no problem that they make us a pitch suit their advantage. I think it's great for the game. I think the ECB needs to change the laws so that people don't be upset with something being changed. But I have no dramas whatsoever. And Somerset were about to shake hands, and we didn't have the concentration to get to that point. And then obviously once the wicket started, Jack Leach and young Vaughan bowled very, very well. So I would say we were almost our best game of cricket right up until the last hour. So we took some huge positives from that game, if I'm brutally honest. I didn't sit in there and do the Alex Ferguson bit with the hairdryer. I didn't do the Guardiola bit on a board saying we need to do this and this. It was kind of like, look, lads, we were pretty good there. We were better than our normal environment. We were better than our normal facilities. Sort of get us to play the manner that we play. And we adapted really, really well. And it's something that's been our Achilles heel. It will continue to be because our pitches are fast and bouncy. But we are working incredibly hard at that. And we don't want to be that team that you get away on foreign conditions and we don't play particularly well. We're working very hard and we want to be able to go there, not just to compete, to stay in the game, but to go and win. I thought we were really close to it. I really do. We missed a few key moments. We dropped a couple of catches, which happens. I'm not going to have anybody's lunch for that. Who cares? I was really, really pleased, and I hope the players fed off that. which I think they did. The final, if I'm brutally honest, we let too many small windows just get opened. We had the game in so many different ways. We didn't deserve to win. I can I can take that on the chin. It's easier from this side of the fence because you see the key moments that we let slip, and there were too many of them. Had it just been one, that's a tough one to swallow, but there were too many. And that has been us for my 3 years in charge. We've sort of topped the group twice out of 3 times and failed at the first hurdle finals day. We got some work to do there. I think we're improving this year. I think we've improved and got to a better place, but we still can't allow these many ways in for an opposite team when you've got the game by the scruff of the neck. So that one is an easier pill to sort of swallow, should I say?
Sure.
I think everyone say you've kind of been involved in 5 titles at Surrey, going back to was it 2000 when you were on the staff, and 2018 when you were a player as well. I mean, and it looks from the outside, it looks like you've, I don't know, like it feels like there have been 5 quite different experiences for you. I don't know, like the first one being young kid, second one coming towards the end of your career. I think Aberverde had a very good year, and even these last 3, you've kind of won them in different. Like the winning moment has come in different ways, and either I don't know, watching as a team last week. 2022, you chased 50 odd to beat Yorkshire, and then last year was that weird moment when a few fans shouted out mid delivery. Like, is there a? I know every title's great and everything, but like, is there a best way to win one? If you know what I mean, in that moment, like, do you want to be out there on the pitch doing it, or is there something quite lovely about being sat there together watching the crowning moment elsewhere?
I don't know about how you get there, as in the moment that the guillotine drops and you've won the trophy. But I can sort of talk through the process of setting up individuals within a team and how you're going to play. That first season, 22, was very special from my side, from a lot of players. I hear it all the time, and people win, they fail, whatever, and they're always complaining about Surrey has this money, they have this ability to do this, this, and this. There are a huge amount of challenges here that others would never even dream about knowing about, which we're not complaining about, and we never will. So this is not me complaining about that. Go for it. 17 other, go for it. Haters, I don't really care. It's about us winning. But the way that we set up, the way we changed how we're going to play our cricket, we looked to be dynamic. Of course we did. We looked to have game changers. Of course we did. But we looked to play as a team. We looked to be solid. We looked to back down to, well, we've had a guy, I think, at 10 that got 100 or very close to it. We looked to play the complete modern game. We've never played it yet, and we never will. But we keep striving for it. So that first year set the benchmark. Second year, I thought we were poor in a lot of ways. I think we were very lucky with some incredible individual performances at certain points in the season to get us over the line. So if I'm brutally honest, I finished the end of the season a little bit disappointed. I wasn't jumping from the rooftops celebrating particularly. I was kind of like, we got some work to do here, lads. This is not acceptable. This is going to fall off a cliff really quickly. And then this year, I thought we were magnificent. Even the game that we lost at Somerset last week, we're making huge strides. Some players progressing to England, brilliant. Now we've got some cabs backing up who are going to be our next run to keep driving. But our pillars, our solid guys that are constants around the group, just keep getting better. I don't like talking about individuals, but anybody that professes to know about the game, have a look at some footage from this year to 2, 3, 4 years ago about some of our players. If you can't work it out, I don't want to speak to you because it's not worth my time. But it's really easy to see the improvements that people are making, and they're getting better. And wow, that gives me huge excitement. So first year was the one for me. Second year, not so good. We had a reset this year. Now can we go again year 4?
In terms of, just to take you back a year, when you mentioned that you're like, this is falling off a cliff, guys, we need to turn on here. How does a dressing room react to that? Because I can imagine if I was a player, I'd imagine if I was a coach even, it could be a risk saying to a group that's just won and achieved something, this isn't actually good enough. Like, how do you pick your moments to necessarily kind of talk to a group and know when, even though they're exceeding expectations compared to the standards of the rest of the country, that's not necessarily the standards of the group that you're wanting to run?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's our standards. Other clubs are always going to have this and that they want to talk about. That's great. We don't really care. these are our standards. This is the way that we want to play. We respect every single opposition that we play against, and we try and set up to beat them. I hope that we do it with some humility, but I hope we give nobody any quarter. And I think that is why we can have the conversation, say, brilliant, lads, well done, celebrate it, but come back in a month's time. We're going to get some work done, because we can't accept that. That is not good enough for your standards and this club's standards to keep moving forward. And it sounds all militarian and whatever, but it's not at all. There's a drive in that group. It doesn't need a lot. It's just like a little prod in the ribs from me, just to come on, lads, it's back on track, because everybody's super driven. Ollie Pope being England captain this year, I mean, what a wonderful thing. The lad's only still 26. He's got 10 years if he wants. He's got 15 if he wants to train really hard. The sky's the limit, and we're talking about England captain, for goodness sake. I think it's incredibly exciting for a group of players that this shouldn't be at the end. I'm not suggesting we'll win it every year. We will have a blip, of course we will. But I think you look at the timelines, we have an extended period of being good and setting our own standards, and hopefully keeping some distance.
Is that where... Oh, sorry, after you, Cam.
Thank you, Nick. I was going to say, you mentioned that kind of like...
No scrapping, lads, no scrapping.
Yeah.
So I would do it remotely.
You mentioned kind of there, like having humility within the group, and kind of Surrey's necessary reputation kind of elsewhere in the country. Like, you've got the Kia Oval, one of the best grounds in the world. You've got the most cash, the best grounds. So I'm a Southwest London boy, so I have to pretend not to be biased in that respect.
We don't do that bias bit. It's the best.
I think exactly it. You've got the best ground in the world, you've got the most money, you've got the most wins. Like, people must like hate you guys, surely. And like, how does that? Do you recognise that? Do you kind of enjoy that to a certain extent?
We certainly recognise it. We don't get given any quarter, and we never will do. And to be honest, that makes it all the more satisfying if you do get over the line, of course. But it also means that our boys are hopefully playing in games at standards that they can transfer through. We don't want them just to be Surrey County cricketers. We want them to start here. We want them to get better. We want them to win things for Surrey, but we want them to fly and play for England. That has to be the aim of any county club, the aim of any player, the aim of any coach, to try and get lads to play for England, because we're not at the elite of elite in county cricket. Elite's the wrong word in the modern world, apologies, but we're not the best of the best. There is a standard above, and that's international cricket. And we want to keep that very strong, because I believe that is why cricket is set up appropriately above, say, football, where lots of footballers will play for the club and it's more important than playing for the country. I wasn't brought up that way, and I don't want it to become that way in cricket. If we're not careful, it will turn that way, which will dilute all the greatness of our game. So it's very much our job is to try and keep pushing lads. And when they go play for England, they don't hear a bean from us. Go and fly, lads. If you need us, we're here. We will do anything for you at any point. But we don't want to interfere now. If you're having a bad time, we're here. Come and do some work. Yes, we've thrown for 4 hours. We'll throw for 6. Come and get some more work done. We're here for you. But it has to be that two-way street, and that has to be the way that we have to run it, because of the excellence of the ground. It's a wonderful ground. It's a great feeling in the ground. But also the players need to create that, and the players need to perform in that manner, and keep pushing themselves to hopefully be that man that wins games for England.
I'm glad I let Cam go first, because that really developed. I don't know, sort of two things I want to ask, but let's combine them into one. I mean, like, how do you keep guys? I don't know, in this very sort of like binary phase for England cricket, let's say, like where you've got, everyone kind of knows on the outside what the England team are looking for from players. You've got guys who've come out of the England environment, come back into yours. And I don't know, like if you look at, might feel further away they might have done in the past, might just be players who've come away from England and suddenly you're back in county cricket, and how do you get back to sort of like the day to day? I mean, how do you keep those guys motivated and keep them going? I mean, even someone like Tom Curran, who obviously played a Red Bull game for a while and came back in at Somerset and went really well with the bat. I mean, how do you do that? And then I guess part B is sort of so as you said there, sort of like the other side of the game, the growth of the franchise game. Saw Lancashire CEO Daniel Kidney was talking a couple of days ago about how county cricket can kind of sort of stave. Well, I guess what it has to do to kind of stave it off. I mean, how do you manage those conflicting competing opportunities?
The England thing we can do nothing about. Who England select is their job. It's their prerogative. They can select who they want. We don't fear with any of that. Well, I certainly don't. Um, I truly believe if we're trying to get people as good as they can be, then people would sit up and take note. And if they don't, there's nothing we can do about it. It's something that it's not in our hands.
Is that easy? Is that easy for a player to? Do you know what I mean? I guess it's one thing to say as the coach, but as a player, how easy is it to? I don't know, just to get on with it. Like,
well, I'm not naming players who are selected, but
no, of course.
It's what we're talking about here. People who are not successful getting selected is an issue. Of course, it is, but that's not for the players to get caught up in. They have to look at themselves and get better. If they're getting better, they're giving themselves a better chance. If they're wallowing, complaining about whether somebody's got a better genetic profile or whatever it is, then one, you're going to hurt yourself on the field here, so I'm not going to pick you. And two, you're not getting anywhere near England because you can't turn yourself from 5 foot to 9 foot. It just doesn't work. So pull your head out of where we're about to say it could be and actually get the work done to give yourself the best chance. I think we have to be empathetic with that. And I'm being a bit frank about my words there. I wouldn't be like that with the player. But ultimately, I think everybody needs to just get on board that, okay, England are doing it their way. Why are we second guessing it? Let's get our job done, get our house in order, so that then at least you have a conversation. Say, well, why? I'm getting 2,000 runs. This bloke's getting 300 runs. Why are you not picking me? And then you guys can pick up on the back of it and go, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? I think there's a really simple process to this. And I think the modern world allows you to go down the wrong path, and we're not going down that rabbit hole. So there's a definite, if we are working and we get the work done, I truly believe staff-wise, me-wise, nobody will throw more balls. I'll make a point of throwing more than opposite coaches just to prove a point that we can outwork you. We'll beat you and we'll outwork you. So that's a really simple thing. The boys know that. The franchise thing and the world evolving, I think this is a really simple fix. I think if you want all the cash in the world and a little bit of fame that comes and goes, all that stuff's wonderful. But we're seeing lots of players now who are around franchise cricket who are not made whole. They don't really belong to anything. They belong to the bank manager, of course, which is a wonderful thing. Of course it is. And I'm not the one saying that we shouldn't want a few quid in the bank, but it doesn't make you whole. You don't belong to anything, because these franchises will drop you off a cliff as soon as give somebody else another contract. I think what we are trying to instill here, that, and I think it's a good example, because our England boys come back and play all the time. They want to play because they feel like there's something. They feel like they belong to something. So I think that's the challenge of all county cricket, and I expect and hope that the ECB grow the fact that county cricket has a place, because it is the playground to produce the next international players. And if they don't want to kill this whole cycle of being the best England team, county cricket has its place, whether you like it or not. You might not need to think it's a good standard. That's personal opinion. You don't need to tell everybody that. You just need to appreciate the fact that your players are going to come from this. They're not going to come from franchise, because if they ain't played county cricket, they're not going to play franchise. That's not how this works. So we just need to look at the bigger picture a little bit. And I think then our thing, I'm not preaching to anybody else, our thing is to try and make people feel whole, make them feel they belong to something, make them invest in their own self and their own career to be as good as they can be. So I think it goes full circle in the whole sort of start of the question to the end of the question. It's trying to make people understand it's your career, you've got a long time in this. Most people get 5, 6, 7 years of the franchise stuff. If you're a superstar, it doesn't matter anyway, because you've got millions and millions anyway. But for those guys who just, it's the tack on, it's the ad that makes a bit of security in life financially, but make yourself whole, make yourself as good as you can be. So then you can extend on this period of what we all, well, once you get it, you don't want to give it up. Not many people want to retire from cricket. And the best of the best is Jimmy Anderson. He extended as long as he could, because it's a wonderful thing what we do here. So let's appreciate it a bit.
On terms of like the Surrey machinery, also like the idea that when you're talking about going from 5'9" to 9 foot, I was like, let's get Ben Geddes on some like human growth hormone and just like build them all up, get him massive. That's illegal. Don't do that. In terms of like, but someone like Ben Geddes who's come through the pathway, I think it's of the last like 30 Test cricketers, 9 have come through, a third have come through Surrey's pathway. Like, it kind of, I feel like Surrey benefit from both ends of the scale. Obviously, there are the resources there. There's the money there. There's the advantage there. There's also coming from the bottom half rather than being able to hire people at the top. You have guys who come through the system and are ready to be excellent kind of cricketers. Do you guys think that you have some sort of, not necessarily secret sauce, but do you guys feel like you do something differently in the pathway? I know like Neil Stewart, Alex's brother, has like the Stewart Cricket Centre, and there's kind of all these other little academies going on. But what is it? Do you guys think you have something there that other people don't in terms of how your academy can operate?
I think we have to look at the facts before we start bigging ourselves up here. We have
Nice.
the biggest catchment area of wonderful schools. So they all come on scholarships. It doesn't, everybody has this thing about cricket being the richest people that play it. Load of nonsense. Most of our lads come from normal beginnings and they get scholarships to these amazing schools. So they get to accelerate their sporting credentials at a younger age through school because you spend all your time there. So let's not forget that. Also, we have a massive catchment area. The land mass of Surrey is huge, as it is at Yorkshire, as it is at Lancashire, as it is at Durham. That's why they produce more players than others. So again, let's all four of us not get carried away that we're a production line. We just have a bigger catchment area. So I'm actually saying we need to produce more. We need to produce more for the game. So not just guys that come through our system. Hopefully, we take a learning from other sports. I'm not looking inside cricket for this, and it's my thing that I want to get my teeth into, if I'm brutally honest. I feel like we should be producing more through our system, so that possibly a smaller counter that doesn't have as big a catchment area might actually see some of our lads, and we start using a loan system or a system of players who are of a standard that can help the growth of the game. If we get 600 and a club down the road only get 100, we should be producing more. So we should actually be helping players. If we can't facilitate them here because we have a wonderful squad, we should almost be facilitating them to another club or somewhere else that we can grow the game, because natural selection, that isn't it? If we have those sort of numbers, we should be producing. So I'm saying we should be producing more, and I'm probably putting my head above the parapet, and I won't have a job in the morning. But I just think fact. I think it's really simple numbers.
Can I ask on you mentioned, you touched on the loan system there. I mean, we've seen Hampshire loan Scott Curry out to Leicestershire for the whole of this season. Obviously, you've used it at times with, mainly Seamers, I think, on short-term deals, and Ben Geddes went to Kent briefly last year. I mean, the season-long loan is much more football-y than crickety at this point. But as this, as what you just described there, sort of grows, and do you see that being something that you enter into a bit more? I don't know, that you start to enter into as well. I mean, the Curry example seems to have worked really well for all parties, and that Hampshire gets somebody who comes back next year who's played a lot of cricket, ends up in the hundreds. I think he got a championship hundreds a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, is that something that's sort of on your radar as like an opportunity to give someone the chance to just go and play every week for a year, where obviously with a squad as strong and as big as yours, it's not always easy?
Yeah, I think it's the cricket stuck in the mud, isn't it? If we're brutally honest, it's still stuck in the 80s and 90s of life and how we run things and how we do things. I think we need to just take a bit of learning from other sports and just try and keep it moving forward. So keep strengthening the standard by, if we have players that are not playing, and maybe bring in something where if somebody hasn't played the last 4 rounds of championship, if somebody wants them on loan, you have to release them to be on loan. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to keep best players playing the whole time. The 100 came about that the best players would be stuck in a pot and would play. Unfortunately, because of outside selection, some of the lads who don't get in the county team are getting picked for the 100 who don't play short form for the county. I'm kind of not understanding. There's a disconnect. And I just feel like maybe the county game can be the one that's brave enough to say, okay, we're gonna try and get the best players playing. It's a difficult one, the loan system, because one, does the player want to go if he really wants to play for the club? But two, does the club want to invest in the ones that they've brought through? It's a really difficult one, and I see the whole scenario, but I think the game has to be braver, and I think there has to be something where possibly I'm pushing the ECB to say, well, look, we're quite happy to chuck a Kookaburra ball in the mix. What about just trying to evolve, getting the best players playing against each other? I don't know. Or even create 2-3 games in a 14-game season where you could possibly steal a player if they're not playing, or I don't know, just funk it up a bit, do something. Because as I've spoken to a few of our players and I've said, we desperately want to play. We think you're ready, but you can't get in this 11. You can only play 11. So often there's 2, 3, 4 lads sitting on the sidelines, and we're saying you're ready to play. We want you to play. Can't get you in. I'm not suggesting that other teams should pick them because I think they're good or Stewie thinks they're good, but I don't know. Chuck an option out there.
Gareth, I don't think we can let you go without asking about Alex Stewart. I kind of don't really believe he's going. Is that fair, or is that like, I saw his comments where he's like, I'll be around in the background. And I can't imagine a Surrey County Cricket Club with Alex Stewart in the background. Like, how much of a change is it going to be, or is it going to be a change if he's kind of still in the hallways? Will he ultimately still be the gaffer running things?
There will be a small change, but I hope if you guys are film buffs, you would have seen The Wolf of Wall Street. It's about halfway through where he does the mic thing. Hopefully that is the case for Stewie. I think we're getting to a point where we can find a middle ground where he stays around. This place wouldn't operate as it does without him. We desperately want him to stay around. We totally understand the family situation. So whatever he needs to do from that front, we will make work from the rest of the staff. So conversations are going on. I'm not going to say any more because I need to be respectful to Stewie's side. But we're hoping that we get a Wolf of Wall Street moment, and he's still around for us.
Wonderful. Well, Gareth, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations again on 3 wins in a row. But the last 2 years you've won the title. Last game of the season. Hey, so apologies, or what's the word? Commiserations on your loss that's upcoming in the next 4 days. That is the tradition of how Surrey go about their seasons. But no, thank you very much for joining us.
Been so nice right up until that point. This computer.
Thank God he threw in these. Sorry, man, earlier.
No, perfect. I've got the coaching bag here ready to go. We're going for it this week. We're going for it. If we lose, we lose, but we're going to win.
Thank you very much to Gareth Batty for joining us, and again, apologies in advance for. I reckon Surrey are going to lose by 8 wickets. That's my plan against Essex. We'll find out when this comes out. We're halfway into the game. Division 2. More things to talk about in the world of cricket. Sussex have secured promotion. Yorkshire have pretty much secured promotion. There's some permutations that Nick will explain about their shootout versus Middlesex going into the final round. But first things first, Sussex. What a season. 8 wins out of 13 matches. Remarkable kind of relentlessness. They've got John Simpson and Jack Carson have both had kind of like seasons. Yeah, kind of career-defining seasons, as it were. Is that fair to say? John Simpson, 5 centuries. Jack Carson.
I don't think so. I know what you mean.
No? Jack Carson's got 50 wickets.
But Jack Carson, to be fair to Jack Carson, has done... tends to do this most years. Like he tends to be, alongside Liam Dawson, the most prolific English spinner on the circuit. Has been for at least a couple of years. I mean, he's had a very good season. Don't get me wrong. And likewise,
John up right now.
And John Simpson's done a brilliant year. But John Simpson, has played for England, won Division 1 in 2016. Has been a brilliant county cricketer for a very long time. I think John Simpson has surprised people because he didn't score a huge number of runs last season at Middlesex. And I think there was a lot of regret at Middlesex that they were losing someone of his stature and his pedigree and of his quality behind the stumps. I don't think there was, and I might be speaking out of turn, I don't think there was an enormous amount of, I don't think they thought they were losing someone who's going to average 60 and score 1,000 runs the following year. And to be fair, and they certainly didn't think they were losing a captain. We've had John on here earlier this season. He has had a brilliant year, and Sussex have been, you said, really interesting because they did the same with their Blast team, and they essentially gave the captaincy for the two main comps, as it were, to two blokes who, by their own admission, had never really captained a cricket team before, in John Simpson and Tim Mills. So maybe that is the way for everyone to go. Blast semi-finalists, winning Division 2. You're shaking your head. Are you about to reveal something?
I've been looking up the numbers when you've gone oh no, this is a normal season for John Simpson and Jack Carson, and that is
No.
absolute
I didn't
nonsense.
say that at all. I
You
did not
did.
say.
That's
I didn't say.
exactly what you said.
I didn't say normal seasons. They've had very good seasons. I don't think career defining was the right phrase. I
Right.
don't
Well, I'm
think.
going to run through some numbers and give you some career-defining figures.
No,
John
that's not.
Simpson.
That's not what career defining means, though, is it? Like, I don't think
Is
John Simpson's
look.
career, his 20 years in the game, are defined by. He's had a great year.
Okay, so John
And
Simpson.
Jack Carson has got a long way to go in his career. So I don't think you define your career at 22. Is he 22?
This is pedantry to the highest order. I've
Well,
basically
that
just
is
picked out that this is like
23.
this
Sorry,
incredible
23.
season.
I don't think that incredible
John
seasons.
Simpson,
Absolutely.
average of 70 this year, 5 centuries. You have to go back to 2019 for him to have scored his last 5 first-class centuries. Before that, you have to go back another decade. It's his highest average ever in a season, apart from 2022, where he averaged 65. So that was another good year. But aside from that, he's averaged over like 40 once or twice. But I think you go back. John Simpson will retire in fewer than 5 years, or how many, not that far away, and he'll look back over his career and he'll go, what was something that I'm really proud of? What was an amazing moment in my career? And he'll say 2024, moving to Sussex, captaining 5 centuries, defining their campaign. And then Jack Carson. This year. No, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Defining.
Jack Carson, 47 wickets this year at an average of 23. Last year, he got 30 wickets at 40. The year before, he got 5 wickets at 50. Right.
And the year before?
Year before that, it was 2020. So 2021, 40 wickets at 37. How on earth are you comparing 47 wickets to 23?
No. I think
anyway.
In all seriousness, I think they've been really, really, really excellent. I mean, if we think that the last few years people have talked about Division 2 as like this, it's like the league of the draw almost. You know how teams have been promoted out of Div 2 with 3 wins over the course of a season. You know, we're looking now at a county who have just been completely sorted in all areas. Their overseas recruitment's been exceptional. One of very, very few counties to have got that right this year. And actually, on like a broader point, they are one of the few counties who've got sort of long-lasting relationships with overseas players, and as a result have made it work. You know, Pujara, Unadkat, Nathan McAndrew, Dan Hughes was the odd one out in that regard, but he's been a brilliant sign. He's coming back next year. They've had, things have gone their way. Start of the season, they probably didn't expect, they wouldn't have known how much Ollie Robinson they'd have had, but they've actually had a world-class test seamer, opened the volley in Div 2, properly motivated all season, had a brilliant blast, took it into his white ball, came back in the red ball, it was brilliant. Like they, and also to be fair, and I interviewed Harrison Ward in the build-up to finals day, and he was really honest about this actually, but like a lot of credit goes to, I don't know, like a lot of people around that club and the patience of the last few years, because if we go back to sort of 2020, 2021, when they embarked on like this very young regeneration and basically said, you've got to stick with us, that we're going to do a lot of losing, but these are the kids we're backing. Yes, they brought in John Simpson. Yes, they had Ollie Robinson. Yes, they've got 2 high-class overseas players for virtually all the season. Jaden Seals, sorry, I forgot to mention, was class. I mean, he was the top wicket taker, I think, at one point early in the season. But they have stuck to their guns. And sure, while guys like, Archie Lenham's not been that involved this year, Dan Ibrahim, has been sort of fringe, peripheral. But A, these guys are still teenagers, and B, James Coles bats the top 5, and Bowles left out spin. Jack Carson, as we've discussed, as an excellent season. Harrison Ward, who's just playing T20 stuff now, opened the batting in their run to the semi-finals. Is a couple of years older than some of those guys, but very much the same group. Tom Haynes was the captain of that group, while being not much older than them. They lost Ali Orr last winter, and there was a lot of talk about the disquiet at Sussex and what that meant for Paul Farbrace, and whether they were going the right way, and what it was like to be losing the best of that young side in Ali Orr. But Henry Crocombe took the wicket that got them promoted. Bertie Foreman, a teenage Offie, was playing that game as well. They've been pretty true to what they said they were going to do. They brought in guys like Tom Alsop, brought Finn Hudson-Prentice back. Danny Land came in, sort of balanced the side as an all-rounder. They've done little bits, but in the main, they have done what they said they'd do, which is backed a young group, invested in the right guys around them, and quite clearly, John Simpson particularly has been the right guy around them. It's I remember even when John Simpson came in, people said, "Well, what does this mean for Ollie Carter? Is this the right thing to bring in a veteran keeper towards the end of his career. What does that mean for this young kid who's been keeping the last couple of years? Well, actually, what it means is they've brought in a bloke who's average 70, who's obviously had a brilliant influence on the side, has captained really well, has done fun stuff. Remember being at Lords when he had a 9-0 field, which is, I want them to go up. I want them to go up there and then. And yeah, like fair play. And to Farby as well, who there'd have been a lot of pressure once Alior left, and probably a lot of pressure because he talked about coming in and wanting to win and not wanting to do the whole, we're a young side shtick. So yeah, like massively fair play to them, because it's they've been in Div 2 for a very long time. They've been in Div 2 with stronger looking teams than they've got right now, and have failed to get out of it. So and Yorkshire likewise. I mean, Yorkshire, I guess, a pretty good example of how hard it can be to get out of Div 2. When they first came, when they came down a couple of years ago, the assumption was they go straight back up. They certainly had stronger looking sides in seasons gone by than the one they've had at times this year. And it's also worth remembering they had Joe Root and Harry Brook early season, but actually kind of the promotion push has come after that. They were winless through those early stages. There was a lot of frustration. Otis Gibson's leading in the season. They've not had Shah Masood all year as well, back in Pakistan fold as Test captain. But they have they found a way. They found a way with a pretty homegrown side. Ben Code is massive. Matt Fisher's back fit. Obviously he's leaving, but he's come back and had a massive impact the last few weeks. And I think on a Div 2 note, the big turning point in this season is in this promotion race really was that first day of I don't know what round it would have been. The first day of essentially when Yorkshire at Leicestershire and Middlesex hosted Gloucestershire, and the way the bonus points work, and Middlesex knowing they need to sort of stay ahead of Yorkshire. Yorkshire had Leicester 15 for 7 in 45 minutes, and suddenly Middlesex looking over their shoulder while batting first, going, God, we need to win this game now. So Yorkshire winning, it was 2.5 days, whatever it was, and the Middlesex tried to set up a win that wasn't really there against Gloucester, ends up losing this game that they don't know. And I'm sure people say that wasn't, we weren't looking at that closely, but you always are, and do you know what I mean? You can't not. So that swing of winning the toss, bowling as they did at Leicester on that first morning on a real green top, that then improved as the game went on. I think Alfonso Thomas talked after the game about how Leicester wanted that pitch because they needed the win as well to stay in the race. They wanted to win the toss and bowl, and who knows? But Yorkshire winning that game kind of put the pressure on Middlesex, then lost to create what is now a 15-point gap. As he said, we're kind of now at this point where a lot needs to go wrong and right for two different counties in this last round, and Middlesex are at Sussex and need to essentially get the perfect win just to put the pressure on Yorkshire. So you'd say Yorkshire are almost there.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, there's 15 points between them. It's a good insight into the importance of bonus points in the county championship, in that Yorkshire and Middlesex have identical records. They both played 13, won 2, lost 2, drawn 6, but the gap is 15 points. And as you've pointed out, to overturn that, Middlesex, in effect, have to go and beat Sussex, who are the champions, with an almost perfect result. So Yorkshire have got there. And as you mentioned earlier, in terms of just how dramatic a turnaround it has been for them. So yes, they are currently played 13, won 5, lost 2, drawn 6. But if you go back 6 matches ago, they were played 7, lost 2, drew 5. They were winless. They've won 5 of their last 6. 1-0.
And I'd say that was the Root, and that was Root and Brook played those first 6.
So what we're saying is Joe Root and Harry Brook, rubbish. Terrible players.
But I think
that's what I'm saying.
Obviously not. But what I would say is that when people look at the end of the season, go, but they had Root and Brook. That is true, but it's also not why they're in this position, and that is worth clarifying, because there are a lot of good young players and who've had to do a lot of the legwork.
In terms of Division 1, there is still some things at play. Kent have got relegated officially after a really miserable season. Played 13, won just 1, lost 8. And then Nottinghamshire and Lancashire kind of juicing it out for that last survival spot. Lancashire go to Worcestershire, or play Worcestershire, not play Warwickshire. Again, same system as Division 2. Lancashire are 15 points behind Notts, so they basically need a very dramatic turnaround. If I was Lancashire, I'd be absolutely spewing because they pulled out, or even if I was Nottinghamshire, Lancashire pulled out an amazing win against Somerset, 168 run win. Notts would have been like, thought they'd have been home and host after beating Kent. Similarly, Notts would have been like, we've done over Kent. And for goodness sake, Lancashire pulled out a good win. Anything else in Division 2? No. You're all up to date. Congratulations, listeners and viewers, hopefully. Division 1, One Day Cup. We're going off the rails here, Nick. One Day Cup was wet. Very, very wet. Glamorgan have won the competition on a reserve day. So, to give you the headlines, One Day Cup semi-finals about a month ago. We then wait to go to a sunny Trent Bridge on a Sunday. Only it rains and rains and rains and rains. It goes into the reserve day on Monday. And I don't even really understand if it was part of the allowed regulations. Glamorgan and Somerset and the umpires agree to play a 20-over match to basically fit in a contest before the rain returns. Glamorgan win by 15 runs, kind of capping off a pretty miserable week for Somerset. You were there on one of the days. What's the takeaways here? Is it just a case of why are we playing a final a month after the group stage? Is it a case of, well, if we're going to have to do this, at least can we play the final on a Saturday? So our reserve day is Sunday, because the sight of an empty Trent Bridge in the mist hosting a final was pretty sad.
Look, I was there on the I was there on the Sunday, and to be completely honest, one of the reasons I wasn't there on the Monday is partly it was a scheduled, partly it was a scheduled day off, because, but frankly, like, and that was why I wasn't there. But I'd have lost a lot of money on cricket being played on that Monday. It was absolutely foul, like disgusting, soaking, cold, like puddles, lakes on the field. I cannot believe they played cricket on Monday. I'm pleased they did, because I think cricket has got a bizarre... Cricket is so weird with this, and there are examples over the last 5 years I can point to very quickly here. Boundary Countback 2019 World Cup. Blast Finals Day 2020, when it almost went to bowl out, but then in the background, the ECB were working out whether they could play. This was COVID year, so obviously everyone working at home, no fans allowed. ECB working in the background while it rained on the Saturday and was raining on the Sunday to see if they could then play finals day in its entirety on the Wednesday. And then here we get to the reserve day, and you've got the prospect of a shared trophy, and suddenly everyone goes, let's play a T20 game. Cricket's got this bizarre thing where the regs need to have an endpoint, right? They need to have what happens if this happens, this happens. But rather than sit down and come up with an acceptable endpoint, they come up with an endpoint and then go, well, we won't be needing that. And then suddenly you need it, and you're left in this completely unsatisfactory position where neither team wants to share the trophy. It's not a three-match T20 international series where the third one gets washed out and you go, smart for the cameras. It's competition played out over two round robin groups where you play 8 games each, a quarter/playoff, the semi-final, and then a final that takes place during 3 different months: July, August, September. The idea that you share the trophy at the end of that is a nonsense. It's not the Charity Shield. It's not. It's ridiculous. You can't have a ninth of the teams that entered winning the tournament. Like it's absolute rubbish. And this, and obviously it was going to happen this year. And I'm going to read you a great quote from Alan Fordham, the ECB's cricket operations manager. And this is not his fault, but I remembered it while watching it rain on the Sunday for a press conference he gave last November when discussing the regs and the schedule for this year. And he said, it's the kind of, looking back, like, we should have known this would happen. He said, every knockout match has a reserve day, but it's remarkable how little reserve days are actually required. And then he said, hopefully, I'm not leaving myself a hostage to fortune. It was never in doubt. It was never in doubt, was it? But he's right. He's right, because so this was the third List A men's final in county cricket that's gone to reserve day, and one Blast in 21 years has gone to reserve day. So I don't necessarily subscribe to what you expect if you play it in September. The One Day Cup final has forever been in September. Sure, early September. Normally, Blast Finals Day for most of its life has been in mid-September. So I don't take quite the same level of issue as others do with the date. With the date in isolation. I take issue with playing it a month after the semis, a month after Riley Meredith's gone home. Somerset's opening
Yeah,
bowler for bits of this competition.
I agree.
But more importantly, a month after most teams have stopped playing any white ball cricket. Somerset got to finals day, but Glamorgan, the day before their last championship game, had a white ball training session because they'd not played any white ball since the quarter final, which at the start of September. They've played 3 championship games since then. It's not sensible. It doesn't breed anyone the best. And also, you just leave yourself at the risk of guys who've had a really good season, got you there, got you to the final, picking up an injury in one of these 3 games in between, and missing out on the final. I'm sure that's not unique to cricket, but it is wrong, and it's not rocket science, and it's not. And to be honest, it wouldn't be a massively difficult shift to just play the final. Maybe not 3 days after the semis, but maybe a week and a half after. So you give the counties enough time to sell tickets. You give fans enough time to make their plans to come, because these are 2 sides who, frankly, on the Sunday brought a surprisingly large number of fans for a game that was never ever going to take place. I thought it was a bit rubbish. I commend the game for being sensible enough to play a 20-over game and not subjecting everyone to the first 50 overs of a game that was forever going to be unfinished by the forecast. There was an amber weather warning in place. It was going to rain. But look, I'm pleased they got a result in, because a shared trophy would have been absolutely ludicrous. I heard some great ideas lobbed around. Go to Abu Dhabi and play each other in a pre-season friendly and play for the trophy. Turn the One Day Cup into like a Calcutta Cup, where you play unilaterally for this title when you play each other in next year's group stage. Like all kinds of wacky things. Or do, obviously the best idea, just play a bowl out. Why get rid of bowl outs? Bowl outs are so good. Why? So
they're
the theory,
fun. They're fun. They're not good, Nick.
Yeah, but penalty shootouts are not good, but they're fun and they're drama. But I actually think a 4th format would be great. A 5th format would be great. Where for 1 day a season, how about this for a pitch?
Yeah,
1 day, all 18 counties,
like home run derby.
Yeah, it's a bowl out comp. You just bring 5 players with you, and you just bring your 5 bowlers. You can stick them in an Uber, like get them down to, I don't know, an indoor school, a ground, whatever, and you just play 18 counties.
Hungry Games, bowl out. Mate, it sounds amazing. I'm cutting you off though.
You have said dumber stuff.
Hey, I love the dreaming. I love the aspiration. I agree wholeheartedly. I think people are. I'm finding it bizarre how angry people are about cricket being played in September, given cricket's always been played in September. You go back to the 05 Ashes, the finale was in mid-September. If people consider August the height of summer when as much cricket should be played as possible, well, August backs into September. Like, it's not like they're not very far apart. Yeah, they literally need. My problem comes with the month between the group stages and the knockouts. We've spoken about this before. All 3 competitions in England in domestic cricket, apart from the 100, which is the 4th one, have reasons to not be able to follow it, and that is a bad thing. But that's it for this week. That's it for the penultimate show of the county conversation this season. And nobody, you'd think I would have this off by heart by now, but I like reading it anyway. Nobody covers county cricket like the Cricketer, and you can get access to our coverage of all 18 teams online from as little as £3.99 a month. Our own top team of county champions have now won the outstanding online coverage of domestic cricket prize at the ECB Cricket Domestic Awards for 6 years running. So you don't have to take our word for it. If you are interested, click in the show notes. There will be links to be able to subscribe from there. Thank you to Gareth Batty for joining us earlier. Thank you for Nick for joining me now. Thank you to me, I guess, because I'm here. Speak to you and see you again next week.
That's a new addition.
Yeah, just mix it up.